So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is the issue of something that took a lot of my 20s to learn. And that was this issue of how insecurity manifests itself in what does it look like when insecurity is manifest with people. And one of the ways that I discovered that was through fatigue. And that my fatigue was a part of an overcompensation and an insecurity that was running my life that I had no idea subconsciously was running my life for basically a lifetime. And that was the realization one morning when I was driving to work. I realized that I was addicted to adrenaline and that my brain believed that adrenaline was what I needed to be effective and accepted, my value. All those things were attached to this release of constant adrenaline. I would drive to work and I would consult people as a naturopathic practitioner, and I would just be tired at the end of the day all the time. And I recognized too that when I went to parties and I did things socially, that there was a fatigue that I would feel when I would get in my car and I would drive home. And it was because my body would just constantly produce adrenaline as a form of subconscious compensation for wherever I was. And what I needed a breakthrough. And that breakthrough came the day that I realized a couple things. It realized, number one, that my value had to be attached to God and not to the things that subconsciously I believe my value was attached to. My value was subconsciously attached to presenting myself as smart, presenting myself as somebody of value, whether it was humor, whether it was just a likability. There was an adrenaline that I had to release to create all these things that was draining my health. Ultimately, I went through this journey of realizing, no, my value needed to be attached to God, that I was redeemed, I was secure, I was okay in His hands, that I didn't need to sell anybody on who I was. And ultimately, as I went through that process of revelation, I got to this place where when I showed up to the party or I showed up to work, my energy was confident, calm, and assertive. This confident, calm, and assertive energy then suddenly permitted my body to be able to rebuild itself and produce energy instead of produce stress hormones and stress hormones and stress hormones, where we like to use the expression as a practitioner, I say tired and wired. Are you tired and wired all day long because your body's your subconscious is overcompensating all the time? Or are you calm, confident, and just assertively moving throughout your day? And a lot of this comes with age. The younger we are, the more inflamed this kind of condition is. But it speaks to everybody. I mean, irrespective of your age, it's one of those things that you have to get this breakthrough that your value is anchored to God, His approval of you, His intent behind your life. And one of the symptoms when this is not where it needs to be is this hidden belief that I need to establish value wherever I go. If I go into a party, if I go to a dinner, if I'm just hanging out with anybody or I'm working, that I need to be constantly saying and doing things that establishes my value. The truth is that when we are confident, calm, and assertive with our value, we don't need to do this. Sometimes we're the quietest person in the room. Sometimes we just sit there and sort of let the craziness happen around us and we don't dance with the crazy, all this insecurity just swirling around the table. We're actually just calmly assured of who we are and not needing to establish value. So one of the biggest breakthroughs in life is letting go of all this insecurity and all this anxiety and everything, going to God, seeking His approval first, receiving His approval first, then going out into the world and focusing on His presence, focusing on that approval, not requiring music and stimulus and videos and all these things to just hyper stimulate a sense of alertness and awareness in a world that is only asking, or the God that we serve is only asking that we be aware of Him and let that approval and calmness navigate through our day. It will change your life. It will change your health. It'll change your energy. It'll just change how you feel in a world where everybody's struggling with the same thing I'm talking about right now. So it's all about receiving security and living in that security, and you'll feel a lot better. So the question is this: if I want to be calm, assertive, confident, if I want to possess this energy, I can't manufacture it. I can't just say, hey, Darren, I think you're right. I need to go be more calm and assertive and confident. The issue is it's something that we receive. And when we go to prayer and we spend time in God's presence, God is so focused on wanting us to be this kind of person. He doesn't want us stressed out. He doesn't want us addicted to stress hormones. He wants us calm, assertive, and confident. So when we sit in prayer and we receive that from Him, we're in a relationship with Him where He is that. He is calm. He is assertive. He is confidence. And so we intrinsically participate in that with him. And we know what that feels like. We have to begin to experience it, because until we've experienced it, a lot of times we don't even know what that is. So we experience it through fellowship with him, and we do it regularly. And there's a sense of approval that we feel from God through just constantly being in prayer with him and letting him sort of bathe us with the peace that transcends all understanding. So that's where we start. And then number two, when we are out in our jobs and we're out in the world and we're out in the public, we are affirming it over ourselves. So if God says to me through prayer, if he says that I'm redeemed, he says that he loves me, he says that I'm his, he says that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, he says all these things about me that give me a secure mindset. Well, I need to remind myself that, because here's what's going to happen is when I'm out at work or I'm at the party or wherever I am, I'm at dinner, something out there is going to challenge that. There's going to be a supernatural effort to prevent me from feeling that way. So I have to have something that protects me from all those assaults at how I feel about myself. And one of the best ways to do that is by knowing the truth and speaking the truth to yourself. So if I speak to myself, I am affirmed, I am redeemed, I am okay, I am just how God wants me to be, I can live in that place. So what I started doing was I would sit in my car and I would just say before I went into a party or I went to work, you're doing exactly what the Lord made you to do. You are redeemed, you are confident, you are secure, you are just fine the way you are. And the way that you notice that is taking root is when you're around people, is there's this lack of desire to establish your value. Because insecurity speaks itself through constant desire to establish value. It can be humor, it can be a sense of intellect, it can be a sense of just adding value to the conversation, as opposed to sitting there with your value already established, not using stress hormones to compensate, and just letting truth flow from you if and when the times provide for that. So this is something we receive, but it's also something that we participate in, defending ourselves against the attacks against it and just focusing on protecting my relationship with God and protecting the security and the calmness that he affords for me. So it's available to everybody. That's the good news. It's not something you can manufacture, but it is something that you have to receive and you have to protect at all costs.